I'm here tonight with Jared Schneiderman,
What up?
Kyle Wagner,
Hey guys, how's it going?
Nima Vadadi,
Yo.
and Dave Gregg.
Hey everybody. Hey Kyle.
Hey Dave.
Dude, Dave, I see you've still got that like creepy thing going with Kyle.
Still going.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, man? It's nice to see everybody. It's just nice to see everybody's face. Yours too, Kyle.
Good to see you again, Dave. It's been a while.
Yeah, man. Glad to be back in the fold. Let's liberate some motherfuckers.
What does your shirt say? Does it say deers?
Pears.
Pears. My next guess was going to be bears. Pears
Nope.
would have been my last guess.
Pears are delicious.
Pears.
Pears. Okay.
What's that?
Harris, isn't that the band on Fat Records?
Yeah, they're super fucking good.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Just
I
released
thought
a new
you were
album.
representing the fruit, man.
Yeah. Just apples. Dude, that's my clothing line. I'm gonna start that up. Watermelon. You know, it's like honeydew.
You
right
can't.
across.
Yeah, you can't do watermelon. That would be racist.
Oh.
Kyle,
Yes.
dude, my goodness. That would be racist. Dude. Okay, so speaking of things that are racist, Andrew Cuomo has said this week that chicken wings are not food.
Not food. Food,
Yeah.
not food, like Yo Gabba Gabba, right?
Dude, like
What was the context of it?
okay, so they're talking about like places in New York that are open, like food places that are open, and I guess like some of them would have to close. But it sounds like Cuomo's mad that some places are able to serve like chicken wings, and then they're able to stay open and sell booze.
I think it was
Uh,
bars, right? Like
Right,
bars
yeah.
didn't want to close, so their pivot was, well, we'll sell food,
Yeah,
you know, and they can't close us. And so they were selling like bags of chips or like 3 French fries or like microwave burrito. And Cuomo was like, you can't do that. You got to sell like, so I think the cutoff was sandwich. It's got to be sandwich or better. If it's below sandwich.
yeah, but
Doesn't
like he
count.
specifically said chicken wings,
Chicken
like
wings.
don't count. And it's
But I
like
think they do, right?
I think
If
they
they're
do.
on bread.
I think
if
they do.
they're on bread, they count.
no, shut the fuck up, dude. Like
When have
honestly,
you
like
seen chicken wings on bread, dude?
dude, like once every like
Makes it a sandwich.
probably once every 2 months. Like my wife and I, we just go out to like the local neighborhood carry out, and I'll get like 10 whole wings, and I get like a bucket like that, and it's filled with French fries, and we'll bring them home, and then throw Old Bay on the fries, and then just like eat the wings with hot sauce. And it's a substantial dinner. It's a great meal. So that's why I take offense to this statement. That's like seriously, and consider
You
what
said that's so vulnerable.
consider what he's doing, right? Like think about all the different places that have closed because of COVID, right? And this guy's mad that some places are able to like stay open, make some money, like serve people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And wings, like I'm with you, man. Wings are substantial. Like
Yeah.
there's Wingstop, there's Pluckers, like those are whole restaurant chains based around chicken wings.
Yeah,
Like at
Buffalo
least
Wild
make it a
Wings.
different cutoff. Yeah.
The
Buffalo
government,
wings.
the government doesn't like when you find loopholes to their laws that they pretend are, iron curtains.
Yeah.
They get pretty pissed off when you find ways around that. So
Well, New York is very strict, and I was supposed to go on vacation in 2 weeks with my girlfriend and her family to Lake George, and apparently they're saying like if you're from out of state, or maybe it's just Maryland, but you have to self quarantine for 14 days. Once you arrive in the state, you're not really allowed to go to like restaurants and things like that. And so we had this vacation plan. I don't want to get into the whole thing, but there was this whole drama where the people that are staying at the place where we're staying knew we were coming up, and they threatened to report the owner of the cabins if we came up, because I guess we wouldn't be quarantining or whatever. We would still be enjoying our vacation. I don't know, but
That
anyway,
seems like a really hard policy to enforce.
it does, but I was told like when I get off the plane in Albany that I'll have to sign something or make a statement that I will self quarantine for 14 days. But anyway, to make a long story short, the vacation was canceled. So now we're, staying home, or she and I will probably go to Ocean City or something like that. But New York is extremely strict. It's crazy.
Well, didn't they threaten some huge fine? Like that's how they were going to try to enforce it. Like they weren't going to be able to get everybody, but it was like 5 G's or something. They were going to fine you if they catch you not being in quarantine, something like that. To where
it wouldn't surprise me. It's weird, like I just New York and California. It's weird how New York is one of the 3 states I think that has like the highest number of cases or the highest rate, and they're like, well, we don't want any of these Marylanders coming in here, and it's like, we should be worried about the New Yorkers, and it's New York, New Jersey. I saw like a map with the states, and it's like 50% of the cases are in 3 states or something like that. Ridiculous. And so I was really surprised that they would say this about Marylanders, but
wow, yeah, that does kind of make sense, like, right? So what are their, I mean, are there, like you said, 58% of the cases are in 3 states?
I don't know about the exact numbers. But I know a lot, like a substantial percentage.
Well, it's New York. It's what, New York,
cases.
Florida, and California, right?
No, it's definitely. I thought New Jersey. I was pretty sure.
Is it
I think my wife told me that like I think it was like yesterday or the day before there was like 1,200 cases in Maryland
in
like
one day.
Yeah, I believe so, something like that.
I don't know.
I just went to New Jersey on vacation about 2-3 weeks ago. Went to the beaches out there, and I checked, the hot zone map, and it, obviously New York was red, and New Jersey was like a, burnt amber, but it wasn't, whatever that means. So, I mean, I guess I don't have it. I don't know.
Which beach did you go to? I'm looking for a vacation replacement now.
Wildwood. It's nice, man. Yeah. It's a cool.
Where was the Jersey Shore filmed?
No clue. Jersey Shore is a long stretch. So there's Wildwood, Atlantic City, Ocean City, New Jersey. They have an Ocean City too. I think ours is better though.
What are the beaches like? Is the water cold? Is it blue? Is it clean? Is it nice?
No. I mean, it's ocean water. The beaches in Wildwood were very clean. There's no bars on the boardwalk. So, it's a different type of people. It's all people vacationing from Philly, and no bars on the boardwalk, and it's just like a family town. They don't have a lot of bars, but
Okay.
This is the U.S. 4.2 million cases, 146,000 deaths. That's where we're at. I mean,
yeah, it does look like California has the most total cases at 458,000.
Now, this map is showing the South is much worse now than the Northeast. It's Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, the whole southern. You're not going to be able to see it if I hold it up, but like the whole southeastern section of the U.S. is like red. I don't know. Well, maybe I'm totally wrong, but I know that I saw that at one point.
Yeah. So, Nima,
bring the docs next time.
So, Nima, what's this about this dude Garrett Foster?
Garrett Foster. He was. Some people describe him as a libertarian. This morning when I was on my Facebook, somebody was like, "Well, one of us got shot at a protest," and by us, he in parentheses meant libertarians. He was married to a quadruple amputee wife or fiance. I think they were engaged. And she was black, and he'd been really into the anti-police brutality protests going on in Austin. Now in Austin, it hasn't really been riots. It's been a mostly clean. The only big violence we've seen has been cops tear gassing people. I think they killed or put one UT student into to critical condition with a tear gas. They've done other horrible things, but this was actually not police involved at all. This guy, Garrett Foster, was walking on 4th and Congress, which that's my normal spot. That's where I park. If the bars were open, I would have been an eyewitness. That's where I park before I go DJ. Of course, the bars are shut down here, so I'm not doing that. But it's on Congress, which if you're on Congress, you can see the Capitol and 4th Street. And that's where the protests go. They go from 7th Street, then they go up to the Capitol on Congress. And at around 4th Street, a driver in some car drove up and was aggressive with the protesters. The protesters don't block the roads here. They just walk from the police station to the Capitol chanting and holding up signs. but the guy, I guess, wanted to go, had some road rage, gunned it at the protesters. Garrett Foster, he carries an AK with him to every protest he's gone on. Some witnesses said he'd been going to every protest for the past 55 days, since, I guess, presumably George Floyd. And he went up to talk to the guy who was gunning it and threatening the protesters. And then the guy who was driving the car allegedly just points a handgun out of the window and blasted. They said they heard 5 shots. Garrett Foster just dropped. I think he was pronounced dead after an ambulance picked him up. So everybody's pretty raw and upset about it. And there's really not, there's not a boogeyman to blame. You can't really blame the cops for that one. You can't blame BLM for that one. It's an unknown guy in a car that just.
Well, they have a suspect. They have a suspect in custody. So
they do, but they didn't name him, and they said he's cooperative with police. So I'm wondering if maybe it's just a regular guy, had a bad day, saw a guy coming at him with an AK and let fly. I mean, I could see, somebody doing that.
That's going to be the interesting part of the case. But I mean, his excuse is possibly going to be, well, I saw the gun and I got scared and I panicked. I was scared. And that would be my defense if I was the guy. Otherwise,
too.
Yeah. What else are you going to say?
Witnesses that say he initiated the aggression because he was gunning his engine, towards protesters. I mean, it's going to be an interesting case to watch, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would still, if I was the judge, just based on the information I have, it sounds like an open and shut case. Like you can't just blast somebody out the, you can't just shoot somebody. Come on.
Right.
I mean, he didn't have his gun drawn and pointed, right? Would he have it just around
Yep.
his?
Sorry, buddy.
And in Texas, especially near the Capitol, like on that street on Congress, Texans march in armed protests often. It's not a unique thing. And this guy was apparently armed at every protest for the past 55 days.
Right.
And we're an open carry state. We're a gun state. Everybody has a gun. Lots of people have AR and AKs. So yeah, that's, if you see a guy on Congress in a protest with a gun, that doesn't raise a red flag to me. And that shouldn't raise a red flag to most Texans.
Right.
Yeah, no, that guy's in a world of trouble, for sure. And he should be. I mean, that's murder.
Yeah. If it was Maryland, it'd probably be a different case. They'd be like, oh, well, of course you were scared. In Texas, they're like, no, somebody walks up to you with a gun. What the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah, if it's on his
grocery
shoulder.
store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess it's kind of one of those things where people are shooting, and this one may not have been politically motivated at all, but we're in a world right now where you can go out to a protest and get shot, and die.
Have
this
you
isn't
seen
the first guy that died.
Have you guys seen the pictures, the rubber bullet pictures of these protests? People that have welts all over their bodies from rubber bullets. Anybody seen those?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here in Austin, the police were shooting them directly at people's faces. Like, apparently you're supposed to point them at the ground, kind of have the bounce, like it's a tennis swing, right? You got to bounce it off the ground first for it to be fair.
I don't know. I don't know what they're trained. I would assume you're supposed to aim for the center of mass, like with a regular gun, but probably not the face.
Here reporting that with the specific, like the big rubber ones that come out of shotguns, they may even have a specific gun just for those. And you're supposed to point them at the ground and bounce them. And
I did not know that.
Yeah. That way they don't hit somebody directly in the face because there's too much force. A bullet that size, even if it's rubber, if it hits you in the head. And they have put people in hospitals here in Austin with that type of munition.
It can still bounce off the ground and hit somebody in the face, right?
Yeah.
That's what the press was reporting. The cops is quoting is that technically we're supposed to shoot it, bounce it. They even had like a little infographic, like a little dot diagram.
I guess it dissipates some of the power if you do that.
Yeah, right.
It's still not going to be pleasant if it hits you right in the face.
Is this local PD that are doing this, or is this federal agents? But they're not in Texas yet, right? They're just like
here in Austin, it's still APD. But Austinites have a very bad relationship with Austin Police Department. They've been killing people since before it was cool, I guess we say, and it's always a big deal here. Like everybody always gets really pissed when the cops murk a guy here, because we're a real laid back town, man. Like,
dude, you're making me want to move to Texas.
Huh?
You're making me want to move to Texas.
So you get murked by a cop?
Isn't
nice
isn't
here, bro.
No,
Austin?
for the boog.
I mean, most of Texas is very conservative, but I thought that Austin was known as more of a liberal city or more of a Democrat city. I'm not.
They say that, yeah, and Democrats love to call it their little blue island. But I've lived here for off and on at least a decade, and it's not really like, I mean, it's not like you living in California or like,
Okay.
it's not a Californian liberal vibe to it, right? Like, guns are cool. People aren't really big into gun control. They are really big into self-reliance, self-dependence. Like, we still have all of Texas around us,
Yeah.
you know? So there's some liberal ideals that filter in, and there's a lot of Californians that do come and that do vote and that do, you know, have tech jobs and are about town. But to me, the Austin vibe isn't like democratic. It's liberal in the sense of, like, when I think of Austinites and how most of them feel and behave, I think of like Scott Horton. If anybody listens to the Scott Horton show, kind of like laid back, or Matthew McConaughey, like Matthew McConaughey's character in Days, like, we're all just kind of laid back. We want to get wasted occasionally, have fun, be cool,
Yeah,
and everybody
occasionally.
just be cool, you know?
All right. Yeah. Is it music and arts? It's big into like music and.
Yeah, totally. Like, everybody's in a band. Everybody knows somebody in a band. Everybody's cool, man. Everybody smokes a little herb here and there. You know, it's Austin. That's what it's known for.
What is that saying? Is keep Austin weird, right?
Keep Austin weird. We got the murals, and we're just weird, man. We're weird, but in a cool way.
How much your house is there?
What's that?
How much your house is?
When the Californians started moving in, they got real pricey.
Damn it.
Yeah. So I think the median house price for in the city limits is around $600K, or at least it was before.
Jesus.
I don't know if it's gone up or down, but that's why everybody moves to the little outskirts here, like we did.
That's what I want.
Get cheaper stuff on the outskirts, and Austin's not that big of a town anyway. Like, I say, I live rural. I have to drive up the hill for internet because, you know, there's no cable to my house. But I still drive 20 minutes and I'm in, you know, a big town. I drive 30 minutes and I'm downtown.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not like I'm in LA or Houston where I drive 1 hour and I'm still in the sprawl, you know. I'm in the hills, but I'm still just 30, 40 minutes from downtown.
I'm sold, man. I'm moving.
Okay. We'd love it. We love Liberty folks here. So definitely.
Yeah. So guys, so what is this? U.S. troops are in some other cities right now, right? They're in Chicago.
I don't know if they're in there, but they're talking about expanding the program from Portland to other cities, and I know like other cities are pushing back against that. You know, the Portland mayor is opposed to having the federal troops activities, but anyway, yeah, they're talking about expanding into Chicago, possibly Baltimore. You know, which is, we obviously have a lot of crime here, but I don't really see the need for federal troops on our streets personally.
Like,
the Chicago mayor didn't she accept it? Like, originally she was critical, and then she said, well, I guess if they're going to add resources, then it could be a good thing.
I don't know. I hadn't heard that, but money talks. So if there's money in it for the Chicago mayor, I could see her changing her opinion on that. You know, equipment, and I don't know. But yeah, I think, I don't know, man, like any kind, when you have a conflict like that, just to me seems like they escalate it. It makes it worse, you know? And I haven't gotten any clear information. I just hear both sides have their talking points, right? So I listen to this guy, Michael Savage, sometimes, and he's like a nationalist. He's a conservative nationalist, Trump guy. And, you know, these guys are always about the law and order. And, you know, he's like, Antifa, these guys are domestic terrorists. This is why the Department of Homeland Security was established, was to crush these kinds of people. And we need, you know, Trump's doing absolutely the right thing. And then he goes on and on about all these stories that he's telling. And he's like, well, the protesters, they barricaded some federal employees in a building and tried to burn it down while they were in there. And I don't know if that happened or not, but he's, you know, harping on it and, you know, talking about how this is like a war in the streets. And I don't, in the video I watched, the guy was just standing on the sidewalk. So I guess from my perspective, I'm like, what are these troops doing? Are they patrolling around Portland? Are they just around this federal courthouse trying to protect that one building? What is going on? I have no idea. So I just read things from all sides, and I don't know what to believe.
Well, I think you're right that it's a dangerous situation because they're there. I mean, if the feds have a big contingent of troops in fatigues hanging around, like you said, that just is an opportunity for conflict. And now there's like moms marching out, moms against feds marching against. I mean, what happens when one of these guys pepper sprays a mom in the face or shoots one with a less than lethal round and she dies?
What if they made like a group called MILFs against feds? Would you support that?
100%. Anybody against feds.
What's going to happen when they kill the first Karen?
Oh shit.
I don't know. People keep saying the Karens are like anti-mask. I would think a Karen would be pro-mask.
There's both sides of the coin, dude.
Yeah, I would say there's both sides.
Dude, I hate the Karen thing. I really do. My sister's name is Karen. And I just talked to her the other day, and I got a friend. Listen to this. I got a friend request from her, and it says K Ren, like she actually changed her, name. And I like text her. I was like, "Wait, is this you sending me a friend request?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What's this K Ren thing going on?" She was like, we started talking about the whole Karen thing. She was like, "I called up my utilities and I had to talk to somebody about my bill, and I had to ask for a manager. And so all of a sudden the operator like holds the phone down. It's like, I need a manager. I have Karen on the phone." And I'm like, that fucking sucks, man, because these Karens are middle-aged, entitled, racist people, and she is not the last thing.
She's only 2 out of 3.
She's 2 out of those 3 things, man. That doesn't make her, as entitled as all of us are.
Somebody
to this is changing to Karen.
She was like, "I'm thinking about going with Ren." I was like, go with K-Bone. Like,
yeah, rapper name.
Somebody invited me to a Facebook group called the Kyle and Karen Sanctuary.
They're trying to make Kyle.
What's his name? Matt Bergman.
It says this is a place for Kyles and Karens, where Kyles and Karens can step away from the world that spits in our faces and come together.
Maybe you'll see my sister in that group.
It's been worse for Karens than Kyles, I think. Kyles get that like you're the Monster Energy adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Drywall.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys probably don't get it as bad as other people get it who have to like deal with Kyle's though.
Worse dealing with a Kyle than being a Kyle.
But yeah, so dude, what's up with the Chinese retaliation? So the Chinese consulate in Houston was closed, right? So what's China doing now?
So they closed the Chengdu consulate, basically like a tit for tat, which I guess is kind of good because they didn't escalate, right? They didn't do something worse. They just did something equal to. But the language that both officials, the Chinese officials and then Mike Pompeo did, like they were basically insulting each other. Like Pompeo went off on how China was stealing IP. Like that was the main thing. I mean, somebody paid Stefan Kinsella here because the stealing of IP might cause a war.
Kinsella.
And China said that that the U.S. statements were full of vicious anti-Chinese propaganda, and so in retaliation they closed the consulate in Chengdu. So I mean, I don't know how big of a city that is or how important it is, but I would assume it's similar to Houston, relatively.
I read there was a fire. I'm looking for the.
Yeah, they were burning documents in there.
Oh.
Okay.
Was that true?
Where the stealing IP came from? Like those were all screenplays that they were stealing. The bootleg?
Yeah, I think the theory is that they were spying on, I guess, coronavirus stuff, like vaccine development or something.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And which I don't understand why that needs to be spied. Why isn't that just being shared with everybody?
Yeah, I mean, like it seems like
why aren't we all just working together on that one.
Doesn't it seem like if everybody shared this information, they could like work together and we would come up with a vaccine so much quicker. Like this is just
I mean, I feel like
retarded.
there are some private companies that are probably doing that, but yeah, yeah, it's stupid. But yeah, they were apparently burning documents in like I guess from what I could tell, they like the building had like sort of like a center courtyard or whatever, and then in that they had like a dumpster, and you could just see like flames like shooting out, like smoke billowing out of the dumpster.
Well, I guess what worries me more than just the closing of the consulates is the things Pompeo was saying. Like, it seems like the consulate closing was him trying to pick a fight. And it just seems like a horrible time to pick a fight. I mean, maybe that's the thing. We're going to end the wars in the Middle East and have a war in China. But Pompeo said, today, China is increasingly authoritarian at home and more aggressive in its hostility to freedom everywhere. The free world must triumph over this new tyranny. Like, that's some Woodrow Wilson level quotage right there.
I mean, it sounds like he's talking about the U.S.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, he's projecting.
Right, exactly.
But I mean, that doesn't bode well to anybody, does it? Like, nobody wants that, do they?
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I don't know if we could get into a hot war with China, though. That'd be kind of crazy.
And it seems like a Cold War with China, unlike Russia, like a Cold War with Russia means a bunch of money for a bunch of interest like Lockheed. But I would figure we make more money from the Chinese trading with them peacefully than having a Cold War with them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's where all of our manufacturing is happening, right?
Marco Rubio, here I got a quote for you. Marco Rubio says, China's consulate in Houston is not a diplomatic facility. It is the central node of the Communist Party's vast network of spies and influence operations in the United States. Now that building must close, and the spies have 72 hours to leave or face arrest. This needed to happen. And then this other guy, I don't know who this is. He says, it's been there since 1979. So the U.S. has allowed the central node of the Communist Party and their vast network of spies for over 40 years. Why is it just now an issue? Which is another good
really
point.
Interesting too. Yeah, because that would have been put there after Nixon went to China, and Pompeo's speech was at the Richard Nixon Library, where he's basically closing this relationship with China, or at least sounds like he is.
Wow. So, is there another consulate in the U.S.? Another Chinese consulate, or
they're the main embassy, right, in D.C.
Right.
There's that, and then I would imagine there's other smaller, but I don't know, man. I never looked up Chinese consulates before. But
I don't know. What is does anyone know the difference between a consulate and an embassy?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out yesterday, or not yesterday, last podcast, but I was struggling to understand all the government gobbledygook language that was wrapped around it. But for all intents and purposes, they seem to be very similar. What's that?
They're like substations, I think. Kind of like how you can have a police department, then you have like a substation.
Right.
I think they're just smaller places for different regions. I'm guessing because different regions do different, huge trade deals with China. But it looks like there's 5, according to ChineseEmbassy.org. There's 5. Well, now 4 consulates.
Yeah, they need to update that.
Yeah, they need to update it. And then the main embassy in D.C. And then there's other consulates in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and L.A. and formerly Houston.
I don't know if they're the hub of a vast network of spies or just a place where Chinese citizens can deal with kind of matters that are, that they have problems or issues with. You have a contact back to your own government, I guess. I don't know. It does seem a little fishy that if we knew this was the hub of a spying network, that we let it go on through the Cold War and everything else. Or for 40 years, I guess would have been 1980. So
I've also read that it is pretty typical, although I guess this doesn't happen frequently, but when it does happen, that they will destroy documents and things that are inside because they just, it's their national property or whatever. Like they don't want it to just get out. So it might not have been anything specifically nefarious or what have you, but it does look weird.
Maybe they're just going paperless.
The Reds are going green.
Maybe they're going onto the blockchain.
Yeah, we use a shredding company, same difference. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also both Bitcoin and gold have been rising.
Juice box.
Yeah, what the fuck is that, dude?
Yeah,
Pediasure?
it's a juice box.
Juice box time.
Yeah. So
He's about to break out the orange slices.
okay, so the Bitcoin and gold have both been rising. And I don't know. I mean, it seems like, right now, for the past like few months, you could be laid off, you know what I mean? And you get like a $600 bonus from the government. So like, I know a lot of people that, they're getting their unemployment in this $600 bonus, and they're now making more money every week than they were making when they were working, right? Where does all this money come from? So, I mean, could it be that it's not like the price of gold is going up, but it's like the price of the dollar is going down?
No, because you would see the price of everything going up, right? Not just gold. If the dollar was in sharp decline, but you're not seeing gas prices skyrocketing and rent skyrocketing, food prices skyrocketing. I think this is just it's sort of a fear trade. Gold and Bitcoin too, just to some extent, are fear investments. It's like things are not good. I'm concerned about the economy. And I think people are concerned that the recovery from COVID is going to be slower than expected. This is going to have a longer impact. They're talking about, additional stimulus measures being needed. So I think that there's fear in the marketplace, and I think people are buying gold because of that. Now Peter Schiff, well, I've heard, he'll say, "Oh, this is the death of the dollar. This is it. It's all going down in flames." But I just think that I think it's a COVID response. I think COVID is turning out to be worse than we expected, and this is a flight to safety for gold.
But
I think that's probably
at the
most
same
rational.
time, wouldn't it be great if Peter Schiff was right? Because I think he said that we were going to have a gold standard that the world just embraces, like without any kind of legislation. Just that'll be the default they fall back to when the dollar ceases to be the world reserve currency. Definitely, I don't think there's any proof that that's happening now, but that'd be cool, right? I mean, I'd be stoked if we would have some kind of new market-based currency that replaced the dollar, that replaced the Fed's manipulation.
Yeah, I mean,
What
I
if
don't
that
know.
was just what if that just became the yuan? Or the Chinese yuan, or the yuan, sorry. The Chinese
The
yuan.
yuan.
The yanni.
Yuan.
I don't see.
Yuan,
I don't
yeah.
know. I read a great article which I should share with you guys when one of the sites that was just like, this is why it won't be that the yuan won't replace the dollar, and it was talking about their bond markets, and I don't know. It was just like, look, it's just not going to happen anytime soon. So
well, I don't think you'd ever get Americans to trade in yuans. Like,
no, you don't. It's not using the foreign currency. It's governments would take that currency as their new
standard, the world
for their
reserve.
reserves.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and yeah, you would think at some point the world is going to realize that we have way too much debt and we're never going to pay it back. But it just doesn't seem to happen. It seems to be an endless demand for dollars overseas. Like countries like Zimbabwe, where they've destroyed their local currency, people want dollars. In Venezuela, they want dollars. Like there's international demand for dollars, because as bad as it is, like a lot of these other countries have even worse currencies than the U.S. dollar, which is crazy.
But does it last? Does it last forever? I mean, doesn't it have a limit? Isn't there a limit, or is it just infinite?
Well, this is what we've seen. People have been calling for the death of the dollar for the last, since 1973 or whenever we went off the gold standard. So
1971, Kyle.
Sorry. And it just hasn't happened. It's been a slow decline. And so there's really no reason why that slow decline can't continue in perpetuity. I mean, I remember when draft beers were all $3. That was the expensive beer. And now they're all $5. So it's just over time, you just see this slow decay of the dollar, but you don't see this huge drop. You don't see the 100%, 200% a year inflation rate like they have in these other countries. So
I mean, even with a slow decline, is that sustainable?
It's been sustainable. We keep doing it.
Well, it's been sustainable, but you're talking about 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know what the time frame for this is, right? I mean, in some countries, it's it can vary. It seems to depend on a lot of other factors.
Oh, there's a ton of factors, but I mean, as of right now, like you can still go to the store and buy stuff with your
I mean, I'm
dollars.
not saying we're anywhere near collapse.
Yeah.
But one would think at some point, that could happen.
And don't things happen way faster than we think they will sometimes? I mean, the whole COVID thing where the country locked down in like a month, like 1 month after the middle of March, the world's been completely different. And almost since, like, we can have black swan events or just drastic changes. I'm not saying that will happen to the dollar, but I guess I'm saying it could happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any faith in the dollar. I mean, I'm a libertarian, and I understand they're just creating money out of thin air to pay for these enormous deficits. So, you can buy anything. It doesn't have to be gold. You can buy anything else other than dollars. You can invest in stocks or property, any kind of asset, collectibles. I got a friend that buys baseball cards.
Kyle, do you think Peter Schiff's prediction about this depression is false?
Here's the thing about Peter. So I was listening to him on Joe Rogan the other day, and
I actually just finished that podcast today, so that's
he's very smart, and he talks very fast, and he mixes a lot of stuff that's true and correct with stuff that's not quite correct or not true. And it's hard for a listener to pick through it and be like, okay, he's right about that, but he's wrong about that. And so I just would take him with a grain of salt.
Is there one thing that you heard from his Joe Rogan podcast that you'd be like, oh, he was definitely wrong about that?
Definitely wrong. I don't see the high inflation rate that he's talking about, because the system that we have is based on debt, and in order for us to have like a soaring money supply, people would really have to be borrowing a lot of money. You'd have to see the credit expansion, and then we would have to see like international demand for dollars really decline. There just have to be sort of a worldwide rejection of the dollar, and I just don't see that happening. I see us kind of limping along, and I mean, we went through 4 QEs, and the dollar index is like, it went up to like 100. It went from like 70 up to like 100. Like the dollar strengthened through all of that, which was insane, But it did. I mean, gas prices have gone from $4 to like $2. It was like in the $1.30, So I guess I'm not as bearish on the dollar as he is, but I'm pretty bearish as far as just.
But maybe it's not even the dollar collapsing. Maybe it's just all the bubbles that these monetary policies are creating. Like, we're going to see an education bubble pop very soon if it hasn't already begun. Right. And that's all. I mean, it's all connected to that.
What do you mean? Which education bubble? Like
higher education? Yeah, higher education.
Yeah, I mean,
loans and stuff.
What's that?
Like a mass default on student loans or something like that, where just nobody's paying.
Well,
back.
Unfortunately, you can't. Well, yeah, you can't really default, but yeah, if people just can't pay it, it's essentially the same. They just
if they can't pay it, they can't pay
garnishes.
It. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge problem, and of course, the government is like guaranteeing, I guess, a lot of these student loans, or which gets the students lower interest rates and things like that. Which is not good.
Right.
Okay, so like, what if we had like a mass default on student loans, right? Like, what if say Bernie Sanders gets elected, right? And he says, okay, nobody has to pay back their student loans. Like, what would that do?
Well, who holds that receivable, right? Who holds that IOU? That's who's going to take the loss. If it's the if it's the banks, if it's a bank that made the loan, or if it's a bank that backed the loan, and you have to be careful with bank defaults, because banks have creditors, which is you as a depositor. If you use Bank of America and Bank of America goes belly up, then you as a depositor, your savings are at risk. So it's kind of a vicious circle there.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, but what if it happened, right? And then the government just stopped dealing with college loans. I mean, so that might be a good thing, right?
That could be. Yeah, I mean, the government takes enormous financial losses. They bailed out Fannie and Freddie, and they continue to operate those institutions at huge losses. And I guess the way you end up seeing the impact is just on a weaker economy in general, you know.
And Matt, they say, you know, sure, Bernie says he's going to get rid of student loans or whatever, or forgive student loans. But I mean, that doesn't mean that's going to get the government out of higher education. In fact, he wants the government to basically take over higher education and guarantee higher education. So
Yeah,
I don't think that would be good at all. I mean, the best would just be a natural, make it legal for these people to default, which it isn't. You can't default on a student loan. So get rid of that and then let people default and just, you know, tear the fucking Band-Aid off, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen eventually. People are just going to stop going to college. I mean, you know, or it's just going to be just the elites.
Well,
So.
a lot of people are already kind of going, hey, is this really worth it?
Right,
Is it
exactly.
worth it for me to take on all this debt, and then I get a degree, and then I can't find a job, and now I just have a bunch of debt, you know? So that's a calculation everybody has to do for themselves. But I mean, I think people should, you know, ideally pay back their loans. You borrowed money, you know, with the understanding that you were going to owe it back.
Right.
So
Well,
try to pay it back.
It's not hard in a lot of cases. And I think the federal government was buying up a lot of them. They bought my loan, they bought my wife's loan debt, and then the feds own it, right? So they already paid back the original creditors. And then it just becomes government funny money like everything else, probably way smaller than the government spends on like the Pentagon's budget or the war budget or anything like that. And then because they don't really care about it, they give you all these programs like, all you have to do is say you make such and such amount of money, and they're like $25, $50 a month or something like that. So most people it's just some small expense that they just expect to pay. Like I imagine I'll be paying my student loans for 25, 50 years just because it's such a small bill. I don't really care about it. It just sits on autopilot, does its auto pay thing. And then during COVID, I think they stopped it. Like I got an email a couple of weeks ago that they're not taking any more payments. They're just leaving the student loan where it is. $0 payments for the next who knows when. And it's not like the government really cares. They're not going to get on my ass about it.
They're a wonderful lender, aren't they?
Yeah, they don't care. Big money.
They pay us back if you feel like it, you know. We don't really care.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Gosh.
Yeah. So,
but
guys,
I guess my point before I said that, I was also thinking, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these kids, when I was young, when I was 18, I wasn't a libertarian. I was a statist. I had no idea what the world was. Everybody my whole life had told me to go to college, had super high grades, 9th in my class. They were like, you got to go to college. It's what you do. And every adult in my life told me, do whatever you want to do in college. It doesn't matter. Just get that degree, go to college, and you're going to be fine. And then I got a degree in broadcast journalism. I got a job. I was on TV, but I was defending cops and prosecutors all day, every day. And I hated it. And so I quit.
You were on TV?
Like, huh?
You were on TV?
I was a weekend anchor and a weeknight reporter at the ABC station in Wyoming. And then I moved
please tell me you got a sizzle reel or something of like your...
You could Google me. My goodbye reel is kind of funny. Google Nima Vadati.
Totally.
Goodbye. You check that out.
Totally doing that.
What's a sizzle reel though? Like just a blooper reel?
It's like a clip, you know. It's like a
highlight reel.
Yeah, like a highlight reel.
Oh, I have those too. Yeah, but I didn't make a reel at my second job just because I hated it so much. It was a CBS affiliate in Washington State, Eastern Washington State, which is like very conservative state, like red state statist. And when the cops killed the guy, I just asked too many questions, and the prosecutor hated my guts and stopped inviting me to press conferences. And I didn't feel like my news staff was really on my side either. Like the ideas I pitched, they never liked. Like I pitched this idea because housing prices were really high. I pitched this idea about a guy I knew that was in the housing industry, and he had this whole plan for making houses. They were 50% cheaper than all the market rate of the houses. And all he needed to do was get rid of these very specific regulations that he said were pointless and just made his costs go higher. They didn't let me do it. They didn't want me to do that. They're like, don't do something like that. That's dumb. Every single story had to end with, and this is the law that we think should happen, is what it seemed like. Not explicitly, but it's like the government's doing nothing. What are city council members doing for this and that? And at that point, I was full blown anarchist. And I just couldn't do it anymore.
It's just not going to work out. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me to hear that you were a broadcaster, because you talk good like me.
I talk good. I have my banjo. I'm in the country, but I still talk good.
So, guys, I think we're about out of time here. We're gonna head on over to the After Hours program. If you want to check out our After Hours program, go to patreon.com/punk rock libertarians and contribute a minimum of $1 per month, and you'll gain access to our After Hours program. We have t-shirts over at libertariancountry.com. If you type in the code PRL or the code PRL podcast, you'll receive a 10% discount. If you spend $50 or more and you type in the code PRL2, you'll receive a 20% discount. This podcast is brought to you in part by Conversations About Freedom podcast, hosted by Moral Bob. Until next time, live free
Or die.
Or die.